The House of Cain, Book 1, Den of the Wolf, a novel by StoryMan-Jack. Chapter 1, Episode 1, The Call. Even a man who is pure in heart and says his prayers by night may become a wolf when the wolfsbane blooms and the autumn moon is bright. From The Wolfman, 1941. I let my eyes finish their incessant and annoying misting, tossing my old man's journal on the desk. It didn't take my father. I didn't like my father. He was a hard, angry son of a bitch. And he was more drill instructor than a father. Get up, train, educate, eat, sleep. That was my childhood. That didn't mean he wasn't a good father, though for much of my life I thought he wasn't. I just couldn't help feel that I never really tried to understand him. Though one could imagine that any child feels that way about their parents once they pass. But for me, it's a little different. Septimus Cain's journals had answered many questions, but really just brought about so many more. My mind went back to the last entry. Dragomir knows everything, and yes, I've cut pages out of the journals, because there are things there you're not ready to know. It's likely that I won't return from this. I stood and walked around the little office. Hell, I was angry. And I had to figure out exactly why I was angry. That journal's last line hurt, and it hurt bad. Jackson, I know I was hard on you. I know I wasn't a real father to you. But neither was mine, nor his, nor going back to Cain. Unfortunately, there's no other way, given what we do, what we've taken up as an obligation to do. I don't agree with your decision to retire from the fight, but I've come to understand it. You and I are unique beings upon this world. We live for generations and cannot adapt like normal men do. I have and do love you, my son. Be well. Until we meet again. I knew why I was angry, but I didn't want to admit it to myself, because it made me just as petty as that I always thought my father had been. The cell sitting on the desk rang, but I knew who it was before the name even populated the screen. Dragomir. Dragomir? I said into the device as I sat back down on the desk. I have something for you. A slightly dramatic, tinged voice said through the phone. I was quiet for a moment or two. Yeah. Let me guess. A message? From Sep? Dragomir was quiet for a moment. I take it you know. How? He asked. How close are you? I asked him, ignoring his direction of inquiry. We are turning onto the lane now. Will you open the gate? I narrowed my eyes. It depends on who this we is. This time the silence lasted a little longer. A junior agent, nothing more. You mean your only agent, now that Dad's gone? I'll take the letter, but I promise you, Dragomir, I'm not going to listen to another sales pitch. Everything is different now, Jackson. We have complete autonomy from the governments of the world. Until you don't. I said, look, man, don't even bother, or you can just turn your ass around and go right back to whatever federal building you're holed up in. Fine, he said. 5 minutes. And Dragomir Caliban hung up his end of the line. I knew I wouldn't like what was in the letter. And I knew it wouldn't tell me anything. Hearing the vehicle crunch into the rock drive, I exited my little cabin. The old place was something of a strange eyesore. A small, old-style log cabin in the scrub of North Texas where the trees were usually small mesquite and, well, let's say, Charlie Brown-like. And behind the humble cabin, which was mostly a one-room shack with a little side shower and toilet, was a large metal building. A building, in fact, from a bygone age, all concrete and thick steel plate, built in the side of a small mesa. It was many things to Jackson, but originally it had been a World War II era arms storage bunker for the National Guard. I watched the two men get out of the late model black Escalade and shook my head. Why are government types always so ostentatious? They could have driven out here in a sedan. Dragomir stepped around holding a small envelope. His venerable features spoke of a man in his mid to late 60s, however. He moved like a man of a much younger age. His beard was trimmed short, and though black, was frosted with white. The other man was a strange one, dressed like a Texas Ranger. I mean, cowboy hat, boots, hell, the whole getup. If he'd had a duster on and a badge, I'd have probably held out my hands to get cuffed, assuming that he'd be taking me to the set of El Dorado or something. But the man was much more impressive than what he wore. He was tall. A damn near giant, really. He had to be at least 7.5 feet tall if he was an inch. And for me, my perception is a little worse since I'm only 5'2", a result of the unusual laugh spans of my direct lineage. Not enough time for the genome to adapt like everyone else. The other unusual aspect of the man was that he was a very dark-skinned man. Now, it's not uncommon to see other black people dressing like shit kickers, but this guy wasn't African American, no. The color of his skin was so dark that it almost appeared blue. Dragomir stopped as he saw me leaning up against one of the pillars that held the roof of my wraparound porch up. This is Derek McIntyre, formerly of the terrorist division of the Texas Rangers, I finished for him. Nice to meet you, Derek said in a smooth drawl that came from any Texan, that would have come from any Texan raised out in the country. He saw my confused look. Adopted? His smile was bright. Yeah, my parents were fleeing the oppression of Australia. I chuckled. A smile filled Agent McIntyre's face. I held up a hand. I don't need a history, Mac. Though I didn't take my eyes off Dragomir. I just held out my hand and waited. Oh, sorry, Mr. Cain. I thought it was only fair since I knew yours. I laughed. You think you do? What do you have, a circus record filled with blacked out text? Or perhaps a few of those erroneous psychological evaluations? None of it's true. It's all mostly fabricated. I held out my hand. You want to give that to me so you can get the hell out of here, Director Caliban? How did you know? How did you know he was the director, Cain? Mac asked. Because he is what he is. And the arrogant sons of a bitches always think they're in charge. Isn't that right, Dragomir? He glowered. Jackson, I am of the wise, the magi, a wielder of power that God used to create the omniverse. His grand tone died a little. I'm here to help. Whatever. Interfere is more like it. Jackson, you might want to go inside to read that. You're not going to like it. I shrugged and looked up at him, meeting his eyes. I think I get the idea. I just finished reading his journals. Dragomir's eyes widened just a bit. He corrected it. Very quickly, but if I hadn't been watching for it, I would have missed it. Oh? What was in them? Well, you know. 2,000 years of bitching. which is not uncommon for Seb. I tried to arrow my eyes at Dragomir menacingly, but I figure I failed. Though, it was edited. Dragomir relaxed, but only for an instant. Yes. Oh, a page missing here or there. Not too much. But he wrote in the note that he'd taken them. I know. Dragomir, his voice tense. Oh, I knew that too. He left the note in the journals saying you knew everything. The older man shook his head. Jackson, I don't know everything. I do know things he never told anyone else. I live them. He looked me in the eye. I have the missing pages, and when it is time, I will give them to you. And no, I have not read them. I was suspicious, but I knew the old man wouldn't lie about something like that. But I just couldn't get over my resentment. So, you're going to keep me in the dark? After everything? Dragomir's eyes were hard as he handed the letter to me. Just read it. And try to put yourself in his shoes. Yeah, like I could do that. I did have to admit, though, my heart had softened to Septimus. Keep your new agent near your gaudy government tank over there, I said, pointing. He'll get into trouble wandering around. I'll be back. I stared at the envelope as I walked around the back of the house. Hell, it's amazing I didn't walk into anything. I looked up, seeing my old white Ford pickup truck, and crawled down to sit leaning against its front tire. The envelope was plain, and the only word written in black ink, Jackson. Yeah, I hesitated. This would be my father's last words. And I let the emotion overwhelm me for just a moment. I had hated the man for nearly my entire life. The bastard beat me over and over again. He broke bones and made me fight with them broken. Over and over. I'm a little crazy because of it, I'm sure. But now that I've read the journals, I know why. I know what's at stake, or at least enough to understand why he did what he did. Can't make my heart forget, but I'd forgiven. And I knew it. I ripped open the end of the envelope and pulled the small scrap of paper from it. It read, "You were right. It was the master that took her. I have all the evidence I need and have found the beast. Jackson, I now understand much I didn't before. I won't tell you what to do because that time is done. This master will come after you. I figure that is why he took Angelique in the first place. He expected you to come after him, and you weren't ready. I'm not ready either, son. I know I go to my death, but I'm buying you time, kid. Use it. You must go to the Queen. You will need what she is obligated to give you. And know that whatever has passed between us, I am very proud of you, and I hope to see you on the next great adventure." I felt the tears stream down my face and ignored them. My anger was irrational and probably backed by a feeling of sorrow so deep that I couldn't force myself to accept. How long I sat there, I don't know. But the sun was much lower in the west. I got up, dusted my jeans, and walked around to where Dragomir waited, sitting patiently on my porch. I handed him the letter and sat in the rocking chair next to him. He read it, handed it back. "Do you know where the gate to the other side is?" he asked. "Fuck that," I told him. I'm not going. I'm out, Mac. I'm out, Dragomir. I told you. And nothing you say is going to bring me back. The master is coming for you, Jackson, Dragomir almost pleaded. And when he does, I said, blowing out a large cloud of smoke from the cigarette I just lit, I will kill him or he will kill me. Which is the most likely outcome? I shrugged. And then it'll be done, Dragomir. For good. I'm the last Cain. Dragomir shook his head. And what about what's going on right in your own backyard? I snorted. Look, you've known me all my life. You raised me when Sepp wasn't beating the hell out of me and calling it training. You were told, the government was told, that granting packs of werewolves treaties was a mistake. And now you have a rogue left out in the stockyards to terrorize tourists. No. Jackson, he began, held up a hand. You and the government gave monsters the right to rape and murder. Documents and treaties allowing them to kidnap and kill. No. I turned my back on that kind of thing a long time ago. Get you some silver bullets and cut it down. Better yet, go to each pack enclave and cut every one of the motherfuckers down. That's what you should have done in the first place. Look, Dragomir, no matter what bleeding hearts may think, this isn't Twilight. Monsters aren't misunderstood. They aren't dark gods of sex and seductions. They fucking eat people. Dragomir, they feed on pain and blood, and every fucking one of them need to die. I'm not interested in being a police officer to monsters. Dragomir stood, his face angry. So, you'll just give up? Not put any restrictions on them? You, who are the most equipped of all people on the planet to fight them? I had some of the equipment, Dragomir. You don't get it. I don't have the drive. Not anymore. You people took my childhood. The monsters took my wife. And I stopped, because only Sepp knew what I was about to say. And we were supposed to be the only two. But thinking about it, and what Dragomir had to already know, what did he tell you about Angel anyway? Dragomir shook his head. All I needed to know, she was taken and turned, and the beast needs to die for it. I shook my head. Man, she was pregnant. Dragomir's face went white. What? I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. Dragomir's face clenched and silent. That is why, he said. I looked back up at him, staring off into space. What do you mean? Septimus? Dragomir shook his head. I've known him since the day I was born. And he never just left. No plan, no backup, no thought, no way to win. It just wasn't like him. But now I understand. I nodded. Yeah. Kind of brought us together. Though, Angel. I couldn't continue. Then listen to him and go see the Queen. At least that. I'll handle the wolf. Or Agent McIntyre here can. I wanted you to figure out what's going on. But you need time, it seems. No. Dragomir, I don't need time. I need to be left the fuck alone. Dragomir flinched. Ultimately, he took himself and his shiny new agent and left. They couldn't change my mind, and they knew it. It had grown dark, and unfortunately, it was a true full moon. Figures, I said, finishing off another smoke and heading into the house. And I just settled down with a novel, one I'd been contemplating starting for a while, when I heard the howl. You gotta be fucking kidding me, I sighed, and went to get my knives. Once inspected my twin kukri, the curved-bladed knives, inlaid with silver, was up to par. I picked up my phone and went outside. Letting the screen door slam with a boom, I waited on the porch. They had announced themselves, which meant they probably weren't here for a fight. They were going to get one. "Okay, pal, what do you want?" I asked. I could feel someone was in the shadows just away from the floodlight. A wolf ran up into the yard and sat. His fur was black, with silver shading around his face. I pulled both my kukri from the hidden sheaths along my waist. "I can't talk to you if you're a fucking mutt," I said, insultingly as I could. The beast growled, and a man walked slowly up to stand beside him. "We have come to give you a message, Jackson Cain." There were no introductions, no preamble. The man, just a brutish, muscular beast. He had to weigh 300 pounds and looked to be made of stone. "What? And from who?" I tried to smile, though I'm sure it didn't look like a smile. The more I thought about it, the harder I tried. It just ended up growling through clenched teeth. "You have about 3 minutes to get your message out of your mouth before I take this knife and remove your head from your neck." The man shook his head for the first time. I noticed a strange medallion swinging on the man's neck. It was green, almost a jade. It looked almost like an Irish knot etched into its surface. I looked over, and sure enough, the damn wolf had one too. "She said to tell you that you would be left in peace. You have lost your father. Just live your life here and stay out of what is coming. If you know what is good for you, you will be left alone." I didn't even let him finish. I stepped forward and drove one kukri blade through the skull of the wolf that didn't even have time to flinch back away from me. The oddly curved blade slipping into the beast's brandpane. I ripped it out quickly and turned to the man holding it in front of me. "Take that shit laying there back and tell whoever her is to get fucking stuffed." The man's rage was clear, and his red face boiled. His skin seemed to bubble and pop as if he were about to change. "You came to my den, fucking wolf. If you didn't want to lose one of your pack, perhaps you should have called ahead." It was strange. That should have provoked the werewolf beyond all semblance of humanity. But the man just looked like he was fighting something inside himself, like he didn't have control over his actions. And neither did his wolf. After a few moments he groaned, "I will deliver your message." And then he turned, picked up the dead wolf, and disappeared without a trace. Fuck. I pulled the phone out of my pocket. I waited for, half an hour. Never know how many wolves he left behind. But really, I was just procrastinating, because this call was gonna suck. "Dragomir?" a voice answered. "Tell your shiny new agent to get dressed like a normal person. No boots, no hat, none of that crap. And meet me at the Stardust. You know what? Just tell him not to look like a cop." "What's happened?" Dragomir asked. I thought about it. I had to admit it was kind of funny. Predictable, but funny. I was just told if I knew what was good for me, I would stay out of this. Dragomir laughed. I should have thought of that. So now you have to do everything you can. I sighed. Dragomir, I know you grew up in bloody Russia, but the fastest way to get an American, and even more so a Texan, to do something he doesn't want to do, is to tell him he can't. Why a strip club? Dragomir asked, if you don't mind me asking. I have to make contact with the queen, right? And for the last time, I wondered what exactly the fuck I was doing. This is StoryMan-Jack, and we hope you've enjoyed this program. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And please, most importantly, tell me, good or bad, what you thought about the video. We cannot grow as artists if we can't accept criticism. Again, thank you, and remember, your story is the most important story you will ever tell, so let's make it a great one. Have a great day.